We're getting ready to start the conclusion of our 2 case studies back to back. The first case study is about the evolution of a brand's campaign and paid media strategies over the last 3 years, sharing results of paid media efforts. This is by Trip Hughes, Senior Director of Consumer Strategy, Organic Valley, a mission-driven company and brand whose philosophy and decisions are based on a love of people, animals, and the earth. Please join me in welcoming Trip Hughes.
How's everyone doing? I think I'm the afternoon entertainment, so I appreciate you guys hanging in here. And hopefully I'll share a little bit of fun stuff with everyone. So I'm Trip Hughes. I work with Organic Valley. We're a cooperative that's owned by about 2,000 family farms across the U.S. And see if my slide clicker will work. Maybe. Just goes dark and they go the wrong way. Alright. There we go. So Organic Valley, we're a farmer-owned cooperative, 2,000 family farms across the U.S. We're in 34 states. Our farmers are out there every day, primarily dairy, but we do eggs and produce and we do meats. And they want a place to make a market. And so we come together on the business side and created Organic Valley as a brand. And so we market our products across the U.S. In a lot of different grocery stores, whether it's in the natural channel, in the Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh. We are mostly not direct to consumer because we're highly perishable and expensive to ship around. But we do have a small and growing direct to consumer business as well. So organic's been growing, and Organic Valley's been growing with it. And we've really made an effort to think about who we are, what's the story we want to tell, how do we get our authenticity, how do we get our transparency out there. Organic farmland is still only about 14% of the farmland in the U.S. I'm sorry, organic farmland is less than probably 2.5% of the farmland, and we're about 14% of that total overall. So it's still a really niche business. But Organic Valley is something that is an everyday product. We sell milk, cheese, butter, cream. It's at the top of a lot of the grocery lists. We've got distribution now that we've hit really national. We're selling every state out there. We've got decent ACV in most markets. And we're finally hitting this point of breakthrough. So this comes to a point of us thinking about, okay, what are we going to do to get the brand out there? What are we going to do to establish the brand? And so a few years ago, we partnered up with a great media agency and a great creative agency. Creative agency is Human out of Chattanooga, and Chris Pine was up here before from J37. And we had tried some viral breakthroughs. We thought, hey, who remembers trying to get a viral breakthrough for the brand, right? It's like that was all the big thing a while ago. So we're like, we have no money. We got to go viral with this. We got to make it big. It's all going to be about organic reach, every pun intended. And so our first foray into it was an episode we developed called Save the Bros, and it was geared toward a new product we were launching, organic fuel. The problem with fuel was you couldn't find it anywhere, and it wasn't the core of our brand. But it got viral. We got out there. We got, I think, about 5 million organic views with it, and a lot of people loved what we were doing. And we thought, we got to switch gears a little bit here. Let's do Viral Plus, and this is where we worked with media partners as well. We want something that's going to go viral, but we want to plus it up. We want folks out there sharing it, moving it around, but we also want to put it in front of the right target audiences. So we thought, you've got to do two things right. You got to have a smart media partner, you have to have a smart creative partner. The creative partner, we needed something that was going to break through. And so our partners at Humanot came back and said, well, you know, this is really a morning issue. You know, this product that we've got, it's called Organic Balance. It's targeted toward morning time. It's targeted for grab and go quick. Let's go out there and let's survey about 2,000 women and talk to them about what their everyday was. And let's come back, and instead of telling your story, let's tell their story. So it was the first time we kind of did an ad that wasn't about us 100%. And we shifted on that. So I'll share it with you really quickly and then talk about how we did.
Like most women in commercials, I love to start each day doing yoga in my underwear.
Or journaling in my journaling nook.
And eating a wholesome, farm-fresh breakfast with a tiny spoon that I bought from a company that gives tiny spoons to underprivileged children.
According to science, most professional women don't have time for any of that.
Not that we need research to prove it, but there's research to prove it.
57% of us are up before the sun is up.
21% of us check our work email before even getting out of bed.
What?
Let's go get that morning meeting.
9% of women cite dry shampoo as one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century.
I'm done.
33% of us never make our bed. Like, ever. 21% of us have used an article of clothing to camouflage a stain. Only 16% of women would describe their morning with the hashtag blessed. And that seems kind of high.
58% of women will swear at someone or something this morning.
Oh,
You know what 100% of us do have time for? A real-life Pinterest board?
fermenting your own small batch kombucha?
No, an organic breakfast in a bottle.
That's why we created Organic Balance. A nutritious organic breakfast with 16 grams of protein and half the day's calcium, so you can seize the day. Find out what real women's mornings are really like at realmorningreport.com.
All right. So that was a good example of, we do have a lot of fun. That was a good example of something where we actually, if I looked at all my media metrics, I killed it. Right? We did great. But when it came down to sales at retail, nothing happened. It was really still pretty flat. And so we continued to think through. We shifted a little bit, and I'll share with you kind of our next evolution. We said part of the problem, we blamed it on the product was too new. So let's go after one of our biggest products. Again, let's do viral, and then let's bump it up and really get it out there. So this one's featuring one of my favorites.
I guess you could say I'm a purist. If you want a quality product, you have to source the best ingredients out there. Great coffee isn't just made, it's milked. The secret to a good cup of coffee is our pasture-raised cows. Cows love grass, and we got a great blend for them. Has some earthy tones, there's a real grassiness to it. People have been using Organic Valley, half and half, to make the best cup of coffee for over 20 years. So it made sense that one day we'd open our own coffee shop in some hip neighborhood in New York City. I just saw a girl carrying a ukulele. You can order organic half and half in 3 sizes. A little bit, a double, or a lot. And you just have to add the coffee. It's over there.
Got a double for Gina? Do you have coffee?
It's the world's best coffee. Just add coffee. You'll find it in the dairy aisle.
So again, metrics-wise, we knocked it out of the park. Got great viewing, got great engagement, got a lot of sharing. It's on one of our big products, but we weren't there. We weren't scaling it up the way we need to scale it up. I'll tell you quickly behind the scenes on that. Garrett Van Tol is one of our farmers. And all of our shoots, for the most part, we're showing our real farmers, shot on our real farms, and bringing him to New York to actually open up that half and half shop was a lot of fun. He was a pretty good sport. He had never been to New York before. So that ukulele thing was real. He's like, whoa, check this out. So he was a good sport. So then we got serious, and we sat down and working with our partners at J37, we put together a plan and said, what's it going to cost? How do we break through? We know we can deliver great content. We know we can deliver great targeting, but we're not getting there. How do we move the dial on what's going on? And so we went back. J37 proposed, let's do a test campaign. Let's go target. We'll pick a couple of our key markets. Let's work with a partner. We picked AC Nielsen in this case to go help us understand all the metrics behind it, and then let's optimize out of that. And so about a year and a half ago, we launched into Seattle, Portland, and Miami. We put together a test on this next campaign and really started to shift gears. At the same time, we moved into new creative. We knew we needed to be a breakthrough, but it also had to kind of tell the story, get it, who we are and what we were about. And not just focus on one product, because we were too small for that. We needed to get our brand story out there and bring the products along with it. So we spent time, we went through the test, we optimized. Coming out of that optimization, we had a lot of learnings. We saw that we had really great creative, we saw we had a great ability to target, and we saw we had the ability to scale it. So I came back, I put a number down on a piece of paper that we built with Chris and with AC Nielsen, and I took it to my CFO and my CEO, and I watched their jaws drop when I told them how much it was going to cost to really invest properly for the first time. And the great thing was, it was a conversation that we were gearing up for, and we spent probably about 3 or 4 months, and I give a lot of credit to Chris Pine for helping me do this, and going in and really helping them understand what it was about, how to do it, and why we were doing it. And so we came back, we looked at our farmers, we got Human out to rethink for us, and I'll share with you kind of where we went to. We said, let's get focused, but let's get big. We're going to go out, instead of reaching the 2 to 10 million that you're used to hitting, let's go after the 60 million audience, and let's do it on a national basis. And the reality is, we were able in these tests to go through and drive purchase intent through the roof, and that's what got the CFO's attention. That's what got the sales team attention. They said, if you can come back and deliver on that purchase intent, show me real sales increase in your trial, we will give you guys the money you're asking for. So super exciting. In terms of what we did a mix. We did traditional broadcast, we did cable, we moved into Hulu, we had a very strong digital and social program, and all of these things combined with the guidance that we got from Nielsen really helped us kind of fine-tune the pitch and where we're going to. So I'll share with you, this one's a little punchy. We got a lot of pushback on it, but it's something that also clearly broke through.
Some food companies put smiling cows and green pastures on their packaging, even if they're actually kept in confinement. Not cool. But at Organic Valley, we put smiling cows in our fields, where they belong. And to prove it, we put these fitness trackers on our cows, so you can actually count the steps they take in our green pastures. Turns out they take more steps than most people. Looking good, ladies. Letting cows be cows. Call us crazy, but it's working. Organic Valley.
So this was a fun insight that Human App brought to us about a lot of our social media, a lot of our feedback is this humanization that goes on with the animals. Now, if you talk to our farmers, they love the animals passionately, but they are animals. They are not, household pets. And so by bringing this in, as we talk about to the farmers, what do you do for your animal care and quality? You realize there's a lot of holistic stuff that's going on that's very similar to how we take care of ourselves. And certainly one of our cornerstones at what we do at Organic Valley is around pasturing, getting the cows out on pasture, even in the winter time to get them outside for fresh air, a little bit of exercise. And so they were able to bring that home for us in a great way. what we were doing was working with J37. We had the big media going on, but we worked down the funnel, and we did a lot of targeting and a lot of retargeting and a lot of delivery where folks were getting multiple kinds of our message across the platform. And at the end of the day, they went from these 15s, 30s that we had, and we're coming over to YouTube, and I'll share with you the next one. And we were getting completion rates in the 80+ rate that was off the chart for a video that was over 230. So I'll share with you what we finished up with.
This is the crazy story of what happens when a bunch of idealistic farmers decide to start a company. It's the story of Organic Valley. You've probably heard of it, but maybe not. As far as names go, it's pretty boring and easy to forget. And that's how beauty shots are made.
I came up with the word Organic Valley. I said, this is easy, people can understand it, it's really not that creative.
We're not a very sophisticated bunch.
Yep, somehow this company with a forgettable name that was started by just 7 organic farmers.
I'm one of the founding farmers for Organic Valley.
In the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, has lasted for 30 years. And today they deliver ridiculously fresh organic milk, eggs, cheese, butter, and cream to families all around the country. But wait, let's back up. This whole thing got started because of this guy. Back in 1988, George was a long-haired, shoeless hippie farmer. He and his farmer buddies were sick of the way food was being grown with toxic pesticides and how farmers were being treated. And he was saying radical stuff like,
the conventional food that you buy in stores is the food raised in a manner that's harmful to the earth.
That's pretty wacky.
Georgie is stubborn, but he's also a very reasonable person.
So George and 6 neighbor farmers decided to start an organic cooperative, which meant that farmers would own and run the company and make food that's better for you, the animals, the land, and your taste buds.
Yeah, that's a real important thing.
Let's just say in those early days, it was kind of like the Wild West in organics, or the Wild Midwest, we should say.
I was the first chief financial officer, although we didn't call me that.
We did not have any money.
All of us made $5 an hour.
It was day-to-day living.
A couple of years later, some of us went up to 7.
We were never worried about success, we were worried about trying.
Since then, Organic Valley has grown a lot. Over 2,000 small family farmers have joined the cooperative, and all they do is make organic food, the way they would if they owned the company. Which they do. Which means no hormones, no GMOs, no antibiotics, and no toxic pesticides. And animals get lots and lots of time out on pasture. Crazy, right? And remember that young, idealistic farmer, George? Well, he's still a long-haired, shoeless farmer.
I got a reputation to maintain.
But now he's also the CEO, who drives a hybrid car to work. Because that's what happens when a bunch of farmers own the company.
I'm thinking is let's do it our way.
So if you're a person living on planet Earth who sometimes eats food, here's why you should care about this story.
We cannot afford to be degrading our lands any longer.
Small family farms are much more invested in the health of the soil, the health of the animals, the health of the people. It's much more intimate. Organic Valley is all about promoting that care and supporting that.
Yep, a food company that's owned and run by a bunch of organic farmers. Call us crazy, but it's working. Organic Valley.
So we took that campaign out. We moved it across all of our touch points. We really built a pretty focused campaign and just got the results back. And it was super exciting to see that through this focus, through the great content, we were really able to move the dial. We went back, we monitored awareness all the way through, we monitored consideration, purchase intent, which is what my CFO was most interested in, and recommendation. And watching this ability to drive and then pairing that back up with our internal syndicated data and working with Nielsen, we were able to come back and say, not only did we hit the growth number we told you we were going to hit, we beat it by 50%, which was not necessarily what I wanted to tell them. I was hoping to put a little in my pocket. But we are now going to go forward and get funded for the second half of the year, and they're all ready to go and start talking about next year. But I think the story that I wanted to tell was kind of this building, this trial and error, but going back to the numbers, going back to the basics, going back to listening to what my management was talking about was show me the money at the end of the day and figuring out, okay, how do I do that? Because we were creating great content, but until I got to this stage of it, this is where I got people smiling. So that's it for me, and really appreciate the time to share our story with you guys.
Thank you. I have a room full of people now going to go by Organic Valley.
I hope so, right? Isn't that how it's supposed to work? All right.
One room at a time. Our next case study is about delivering value beyond convenience, how subscription-based businesses can and need to offer more than function. This is by Megan Taylor, Vice President of Brand and Creative at Freshly, on the current state of the subscription industry and what brands need to offer in order to retain engagement and brand love. Please join me in welcoming Megan Taylor.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Thanks for staying to the end. As you guys were just told, I'm Megan Taylor, VP of Brand and Creative at Freshly. I have actually spent, up until about 3 months ago, the whole of my career at creative agencies, so I'm much more well-versed in giving presentations like the last one than kind of talking about subscription services, but this has been a really interesting journey for me to understand and see the other side of brand building, going from kind of helping my clients build their brands and understanding their businesses to actually being the one kind of making the decision and building the brand. Freshly is a life-ready food delivery service. We deliver chef-prepared meals to your door via subscription. They're all made to be much better for you. We have a list of, I think, 82 banned ingredients, and everything is a lot more healthy, also gluten-free because one of our founders is celiac. So we definitely have benefits in both convenience and health. We just recently, as of January, went nationwide, so we're in 48 states. But we're at sort of an interesting inflection point because while we've managed to grow the company via performance and a subscription model, where the heavy lifting needs to be done really is in building that brand and kind of creating that brand affinity. So as you were told, I'm going to talk about the business of subscription and how to deliver value beyond convenience. I always think it's important to think about and kind of really look at the definition of the topic that we're discussing. So the actual definition of subscription is the action of making or agreeing to make advance payment in order to receive or participate in something. And I think we focus a lot, and when you think about subscription, you focus a lot on the idea of receiving something, but I think that element of participating in something is more important today than ever. It really is about delivering an experience that is beyond what actually shows up at your door every week or every month. So, when you think back to kind of talking about dairy, the milkman, this is sort of like the first example of subscription services. You paid your milkman and your milk showed up every day on your doorstep. But what's interesting to think about here is that it probably wasn't about convenience. It probably was the only way to get milk back then. But what started there really has kind of proliferated into every aspect of our lives. So it's everything from clothing to personal care to vitamins to pet care, to food. The list goes on and on and on. And if you think back to kind of the first versions of subscription, you subscribed to a service like Amazon. So you subscribed to Amazon and then had products delivered to your door. But with the advent and kind of proliferation of direct-to-consumer brands, you really are starting to subscribe to a specific brand for a specific experience and a specific product. And this is everything from brands like Harry's for razor blades, Carob for vitamins, Stitch Fix for clothes. Like, I never thought I'd be subscribing to just have clothes show up at my door. It's kind of a dream come true. Even to like toothbrushes from Quip. Even really to our dinner table. It's interesting to think about high involvement categories such as, what you're going to feed yourself or your family and what you're going to cook, just sort of making that decision a week in advance and having it show up. And this really happens via meal kits like Blue Apron and HelloFresh, where they deliver ingredients and then you cook them, or life-ready meals like Freshly delivers, which takes sort of all the work out of meal prep. It's just, it shows up, you heat it for 3 minutes and you can eat it. So it offers ultimate convenience and health. So now that we've looked at what, I think it really is important to sort of understand why these subscription services have become so prevalent and really starting to find a lot of success. And there are two reasons for this. One, it really makes sense from a business perspective. Having a subscription-based business allows you to have predictability and reliability. You know what your revenue is going to be, you know how many people you're going to service that month, what the orders are, and you can plan very far in advance. But the other side of that is that when someone signs up for a subscription, they're giving you a lot of information. So unlike them picking your product up from the shelf, when they sign up for you, you get probably their email, maybe their phone number, a lot of contact information, and you can really start to have that direct conversation with them that builds loyalty from almost day one. But this model actually makes even more sense for consumers, especially when you look at kind of the state of our world today and how we behave. I think all of you would agree that we are probably overwhelmed by the amount of choices we have, especially at the grocery store, to the point where we're starting to suffer from analysis paralysis. I read this really interesting study that said one particular grocery store had 285 varieties of cookies, 75 iced teas, and 175 salad dressings. Like, I find it hard to believe that we actually need that many options, or that you could even probably try that many options. And what's interesting here is that while we might all think that we like having choices, having that many options makes us actually less happy, because you kind of make a decision and then spend the whole rest of the time thinking about what your experience with the rest of the products might have been like, and you sort of feel like maybe I didn't make the right choice, I'm not really sure. You also kind of put a higher expectation on yourself and the product, because there's a lot of importance on that decision that you made. And you end up kind of being less satisfied, not only with the product, but also with your decision. If the product isn't good, we blame ourselves. Like, well, I just made a poor choice among all the products I had available to me, and then you're inevitably less happy. Second to that is personalization is expectation. We all want personalized experiences. We want to feel in control of our lives. I think it really is part of this idea of information overload. It's really nice to feel like something is tailored to you, that you don't have to think about it, that it kind of filters out all of the noise, and you feel like, okay, I know this is for me and that I'm going to like it and it's going to make sense for my life. And it really kind of gives us sort of a metric for kind of engaging with what may or may not be relevant to us. And then lastly, we're kind of multitasking on autopilot. I don't know about you guys, but my life is super chaotic and maybe more chaotic than ever. And I actually just read an article about how our attention span has gone down like, I don't know, 2 or 3%. It's, I think, something like 12 seconds, which is insanely short. And we kind of find it impossible to focus on one single thing at any given moment. So we're probably like doing one thing and thinking about something else, and maybe not doing either thing particularly well. So there really is this tendency and desire to want to automate our life. Kind of like the less we have to think about or remember, the better. Which makes subscription services really, really attractive. They sort of remove that idea of any sort of decision making. Like, I make the decision one time and I really sort of never have to think about it again unless something goes wrong. So when it comes to meeting these needs for consumers, there really are two models that subscription-based companies can employ. The first really is this idea of set it and forget it. So if you think about low involvement categories like toilet paper or paper towels, some other food products, it's sort of like the ultimate convenience. You go in one time, you're like, send this to me once a month or every other week. It shows up at your door. You don't really think about it. You kind of maybe don't even necessarily care about it. That is until something goes wrong. Your order doesn't show up on time, or the product doesn't perform how it had in the past. And then you probably like walk away. And secondly, is this idea of seamless reordering. And this is what we use at Freshly. A lot of other meal kits use this. And also clothing brands. But this really is about asking the consumer to come back once a week or every other week to kind of re-engage with their product offering. So for us, it's like pick your menu. We provide a new meal once a week, so we want people to come back. We want them to look at our menu. We know that we see a lot of drop-off because of lack of perceived variety. So having them come back regularly to see what's new, to see what else we're offering, really is important for retention and getting them to continue to engage with our brand. This model, though, makes the holistic experience like really, really important, because if there's any friction, like they got the email to change their menu late, or there was something wrong when they went to log in and the page didn't load right, it's easy for them to sort of just say, I don't want to deal with this anymore, I'm tired of kind of engaging with this, and they sort of just immediately cancel. Both of these models rely heavily on retention, and it really is pretty difficult to win back customers once they've left. So your product doesn't sit on a shelf, so it's unlikely that they're going to be at the grocery store picking something out and run across you. So you have to actively go and win back those consumers when they leave. So you want them to stay. And the only way to do this is to make your brand really sticky. So it's not about just like locking them in and holding them hostage. You want them to want to be there, and you want them to continue to come back to you. And there really are two ways to do this. One we just talked about, which is about brand affinity and brand love and building a strong brand. And I think this is something that many CPG brands get really, really right. I think we all sort of have a love for brands and we know what we like, but when it comes to the D2C space, all of these brands are pretty new, and I wouldn't say that any of them have built like a really, really iconic brand that you just sort of irrationally love and would never walk away from. But the importance of brand and brand love within this space is that if you think about kind of, you've ordered something, it shows up at your door, it's a total mess, the box is ripped, the product is maybe torn open, it just kind of looks messy. You've already made a judgment about what's inside before you've even tried the product. It could literally be the best product ever, but because it looks like no one cares, you probably don't want it anymore. But if you think about someone with a strong brand, you know their mission, it comes to your door, there's maybe a personal note, you know who's behind it, you know what they stand for, you start to feel like they care about you and they care about the experience that you're going to have with their product. And before you even tried it, you have an affinity towards it, and you're likely to continue coming back for that experience that the brand provides. The other aspect of this really is content. So I think we've all probably heard ad nauseum, content is king. But it really is more important than ever for D2C brands, because this is the intangible thing that you can offer outside of just the product that shows up at their door. So this is what creates that idea of simplicity, of personalization, of automation. It's how you make the consumer feel like you understand them and you know them and you can provide everything that they might want from you. So, you know, I think what we think a lot about at Freshly is like, people can go get food anywhere. But what we're trying to get to is a place where they come to us, we get information from them, we start to help them track their nutrition intake. If they're on a specific diet, maybe we're helping them meet that goal. We're starting to collect maybe what they're eating, what their family's eating, what time of day they're eating it, and then providing tips, recipes, maybe offers, partnerships with other brands that they can engage with, and it starts to make them feel like this product and this experience was made just for them. And while yes, they can go anywhere else and buy food, they could go to the grocery store, they could order from a meal kit or any other service, they feel like if they do that, what they're leaving on the table is actually a way bigger loss than what they gain by going anywhere else. So that's at Freshly, we're really starting to focus on how we can build up a more holistic multi-channel content approach to create that back and forth and continued engagement with our customers. So, net, I think what it's important for all of us to remember is that when it comes to subscription services, convenience really is table stakes. You can't rely or rest your hat on that anymore, because I think we can get convenience anywhere, and there are many, many competitors within this space. So providing actual sustainability as a D2C brand and a subscription-based service really is about delivering more than just your actual product to people's stores. So I think I got done a little early. I know it's the end of the day, so I thought I wouldn't keep you, but Any questions,
Any
comments?
questions? I've got one question.
Yeah.
In terms of customer service, to have you keep your customers that satisfied, is it like an Amazon model where someone can call up, they email, whatever, no matter what?
At Freshly?
And then does that get labor intensive as you scale?
It is like that, and we actually place a lot of, there's a lot of pressure on our CX team. You can call, you can email. We actually recently launched a pilot, it's called Freshly Plus program, which offers actually a dedicated line and a dedicated person and email for someone to be able to reach out to us. And I think that it probably does get harder and harder as you scale, but the importance of it means that you can't let that intensity and that pressure override like how much that matters to a consumer. Like if they're able to get someone on the phone and talk to them and get the help they need, it goes a long way in getting them to come back. And the other thing that we're exploring really is how do we add more value within that? So is it instead of only talking to a customer service rep, do you talk to a nutrition expert or a wellness expert or a coach of some sort to get more specific and personalized help related to your specific issue?
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for staying for this high content day. Anyone here staying for the Appy Awards tonight at 5:30? Which will also be here. Anybody? Okay. Anybody here coming to QSR tomorrow? QSR Marketing? Oh, we'll see you then. You might as well just sleep right here.
So we're going to actually go downstairs and have drinks.
You have a comment?
Yeah, sure.
If you want to stick around and have a drink, some folks over the years have said, hey, throw a cocktail party on the end and we'll have a drink. Now, here's the rub. It's on your own tab. But you're all here. Why don't you go downstairs and have a drink and continue the conversations if you like? It's down in the lobby. If you're staying for the Appy Awards at 5:30, you can actually come back into this room. It'll look totally different, and we'll buy you a cocktail then as well. But downstairs in the lobby lounge, if you want to have a drink and keep the conversations going. Chuck, finish it up, my friend.
Yes. Thank you all, and see some of you tomorrow.
What did I say? What did I say? Downstairs. That doesn't exist. Yeah, upstairs in the lobby bar. My bad.
Okay. Thank you all. We'll see some of you tomorrow. Stay in touch.
All right. And Chuck Martin, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck Martin. Big round of applause.